raise your hand if you're a market expert. I said this to a room of 250 realtors and virtually all of the hands shot up. Okay, raise your hand if you know your market's days on market, annual appreciation, and list to sell discount. All but a few hands went down. Okay, raise your hand if you can get an airtight valuation on any property in your market in under 15 minutes. The last remaining hands disappeared. Being a market expert isn't some vague notion or some honor that's bestowed on you after working in your market for years. Anyone can be a market expert, but it won't happen on accident. You need 4 key pieces of data, and then you need to understand how to apply the data to buyer and seller scenarios in the real world. That's it. I'm Chris Jones, founder and CEO of Guerrilla Realty, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to become a true authority on your local market. You don't need to take some fancy university course or suddenly become a math nerd. All you need is 4 simple calculators, which I'll give you for free, and access to your local MLS. By the way, I do a full 1-hour training on one of these calculators, and it comes with a free copy of my Bulletproof CMA app, which I mention later in this video. You can get the training and the app for free. All you have to do is like this video, share it with a friend, and then comment shared below, and I'll send you a private link directly to the training. All right, here's what I'll cover in this video. Lesson number 1, the 4 calculators every market expert needs. We've created 4 key calculators that will make you an instant market authority. It's the days on market absorption, appreciation, XForecast, and Bulletproof CMA calculators, and I'll show you how to get them for free. Then lesson number 2, knowing your numbers cold. Once you have the right calculators, you have to use them to know your market cold. No excuses. I'll walk you through the process I use to get specific data on my market. And then finally, lesson number 3, becoming a true market authority. Knowing your numbers is one thing, but you're not a market authority unless you understand how to apply the numbers to real life buyer and seller scenarios. So I'll show you the most powerful insights that you can use to help your clients. All right, let's dive into lesson number 1. What are the 4 key calculators that every market expert needs? And in order to teach this lesson, I'm going to share my screen. And here are the 4 calculators that you need and how to get them. So the first 2 calculators are going to be located inside of our Nerd Sheets app. So Nerd Sheets is an app that we created here at Guerrilla Realty. It's meant to be a briefcase of all of our best calculators. All the calculators that we use to run our real estate business here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, they're inside this app. And so you can either create a new account from scratch, it's free, or you can log in with an existing account, which is what I'm going to do. And then let me show you the 2 calculators that you're looking for. They're right here on the top, right? So the first one is the absorption / days on market calculator. You need to know how to calculate average days on market. Chris, I can just look it up in the MLS. No, you can't. The number published by your MLS is terribly inaccurate, and I'll actually walk you through why that is, and I'll show you how to correct it with this calculator in a few minutes. Lesson number 2. Then once you have this, and by the way, just to grab the calculator, it's yours to keep forever. Just click Open Calculator, and it's going to open a spreadsheet that is a view-only spreadsheet. So it's a view-only file, and in order to use the calculator, all you have to do is go to File, make a copy, and then name the copy whatever you want, make a copy, and then you're all set, right? So that's calculator number 1. Calculator number 2 inside of Nerd Sheets is the appreciation calculator, right? So every true market authority needs to know appreciation. And I don't mean appreciation like this, where you wet your finger and stick it in the air and you'd be like, oh, I think we're, somewhere around 6 or 7% appreciation. Okay. What I'm talking about is knowing appreciation cold down to a 100th%. And you can do that very easily. You don't have to be a math nerd. The calculator does all the heavy lifting for you, crunches the numbers for you. Just open the calculator. And then just like the last calculator, this is a view only file. So to use it, you go to File, make a copy, name it whatever you want, click Make a Copy, and you're all set. And you're ready to use this. It's yours to keep forever. And it's really, really easy. In fact, if you consider yourself a math phobe, I'm a little bit of a math phobe. This is going to actually make you, this is going to be one of the first calculators you ever use that gets you excited about math. and makes you feel like you really, really understand it on a deep level. So I'll show you how to use that later. Okay. So those are the first two calculators that you need, right? But there's 4 total that you need. And so the third one is a calculator called XForecast. And XForecast used to be a spreadsheet like the first two that I just showed you. But now we've turned it into a full-blown app that's absolutely incredible and is going to be a huge value add to your real estate business. So again, sign in, create an account from scratch. It's your choice. I'm going to sign in with an existing account. And when you get in, I'll show you how to use it in the next lesson. But what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to create XForecast market reports for free for 10 different market segments, up to 10 or even more if you want. But again, I'll get into the weeds of it in the following lesson. For now, that's how you get access to the XForecast calculator, right? And then the third and final calculator, or the fourth and final calculator, I should say, that you're going to need is our Bulletproof CMA app. And again, this began as a primitive little spreadsheet. It was just really good at getting airtight valuations on any property in any market in 15 minutes or less. And it was so good that we decided to build it into a full-blown app, make it even easier for people to use. And so now it's a full-blown app, right? So you can either create an account from scratch if you don't have one yet, or you can click sign in with an existing account. And that's how you get into Bulletproof CMA. And again, in the next lesson, I'll show you how to use each one of these calculators in order to become a market authority. All right, now that you have the 4 calculators that you'll need, let's move on to lesson number 2, which is knowing your numbers cold. And if you're a bit of a math phobe, this lesson probably scares you, but it shouldn't, right? Knowing your numbers cold really just has to do with having the right calculators and then running the right numbers through them. And I'm going to walk you through step by step how to use each one of these calculators and how to get the data from the MLS. And it really couldn't be easier, super simple. So in order to show you this lesson, I'm going to share my screen and we're just going to walk through each one of the 4 calculators step by step. I will tell you ahead of time that I'm going to run through these very quickly, especially the last 2. And the reason why is the last 2, we actually have full YouTube videos dedicated to each one of those apps. And we'll link them in the video description and you can watch them at your own pace. But I'm going to run through them very quickly for the purposes of this video. I don't want the content to be too lengthy or boring. So calculator number 1 is the absorption rate calculator, the days on market calculator. So again, usually when I teach people this calculator, they kind of look at me and say, Chris, I already know the days on market, right? I can just look it up in the MLS. And the truth is you cannot. And the reason why you can't trust the number in your MLS is the MLS average days on market only calculates average days on market for homes that sold. Right? Allow that to sink in for just a minute. What that means is that it does not factor in homes that expired. Ever heard of a listing expiring before? Right? It also doesn't factor in homes that are unlisted and then relisted in order to avoid the stigma of a long days on market. We would never do that, right? Okay. People do it though, right? And so your neighbor did it, right? The guy in the office next to you just did it last month. But I know you would never do it. So because of that, the days on market, the average days on market in the MLS is very inaccurate. All right. And so I'm going to show you a better methodology for calculating days on market. And it happens to be the same methodology that literally every other industry on earth uses to track inventory. Everybody except for us. Right. So if you've ever wondered, how does Walmart know how many pickles to buy and stock on the shelves? It's the absorption rate. All right. And so I'm going to walk you through how to do this. So here's how the calculator works, right? And this really applies to all of our spreadsheets. You're going to fill in the fields with the dotted borders, right? So it starts by saying, I want to calculate 3 months absorption. Now you can edit this to be whatever length of time you want or however many months you want. It should be stated in months, all right? I recommend that most of you, especially if this is the first time you're using it, just use 3, right? The reason why I like 3 is because it's very recent. So the numbers are going to be very up to date. However, typically 3 months, you can get a large sample size, and large sample size means low margin of error. And it means the numbers are going to be very inaccurate or very accurate, not inaccurate, right? So I would recommend you only increase this number from 3 if the number of homes sold is less than 100, right? So if you have fewer than 100 homes sold, when we do that, and I'll show you that step in just a moment, then I would recommend that you increase the number of months in order to calculate absorption. But I don't normally recommend, 12 months absorption or 18 or 24, because you don't really want to know what days on market was this time last year. You want to know what it is today. And so 3 months usually is kind of the sweet spot. All right. So you're going to enter 3, or just leave it alone, let it be 3. And then we're going to jump over to our MLS and we're going to search for homes sold during that period, right? And so it's really easy. So we're just going to click homes sold 90 days, right? And we're going to search it for Fayetteville proper, right? So if I don't, it ends up being a ton of matches, and I don't know how accurate it is or what area it extends to. You can really do whatever market segment you want. So if you wanted to search days on market for homes that have more than 5 bedrooms, you could do that. Just put in all the criteria, search for homes sold, go back to the calculator, search for active listings, and it's really easy. So you can literally you can run the same calculator for any market segment that you want. But I'm just going to do for Fayetteville proper, any kind of property within that geographical area, right? So it's 970 matches. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to enter 970 homes sold over the last 90 days. And then I'm going to go and rinse and repeat the exact same search. And I'm going to search for active listings. So current active listings that match the same criteria. And that's why you can do it for literally any market segment. So current active listings is 982. Boom. Okay. And oops, I just overwrote the last ones. All right. So we're alive. This is not polished. All right. So 982 active listings, 970 homes sold. All right. So here's what we can extrapolate. And don't worry, the calculator does all the heavy lifting for you. But here's what we can extrapolate from those 2 key pieces of data. Number 1, the monthly absorption rate is 33%. What that means is that every month, roughly 1/3 of the current inventory is going to turn over, right? Just so happens that this is very clean numbers. And what that means is that you roughly have 3 months of inventory right now, okay? Just barely more than 3 months of inventory. So in the last 3 months, 970 homes sold. Currently, there's 982 active listings, which means you have about 3 months worth of inventory, okay? And then it calculates true days on market down to the day, and it's 91 days on market, which is very different, by the way, from the number that the MLS is giving me right now, right? So if I was going to take a listing, there's no way I would take a listing that was less than 6-month contract. And the reason why is I would have to explain to them, say right now in Fayetteville, North Carolina, the average home sells in about 91 days, okay? Which means half of homes sell faster than that, but half of homes take longer to sell. And so this is the true days on market, and any realtor that tells you otherwise just doesn't know how to calculate days on market. All right, that's calculator number 1. Now let's move over to calculator number 2, which is the appreciation calculator. All right, this one is also very simple. Just like the last one, you're going to fill in the fields with dotted borders. So I want to calculate average appreciation over the past 3 years. All right, I recommend that every realtor should have handy their 1, 3, 5, and 10-year appreciation. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to show you how to calculate 3 years worth of appreciation. And it's really simple, okay? If you calculate 3 years worth of appreciation, you're going to search for all solds between this starting date range and this ending date range, right? So this is very easy. So 3 years of appreciation, this is going to automatically calculate 3 years, back from today's date, right? The calculator will always automatically update to today's date. It's very easy. And then we're just going to go over to the calculator and we're going to search for solds. And what were those dates again? The first ones was July 10th, 2021 through July 10th, 2022, right? Pretty easy. So July 10th, 2021 through July 10th, 2022, right? And then instead of just knowing the number of homes that sold during that time period, we're going to go to the results and look at the tabular view. And then we're going to look at the average close price. And the average close price during that period of time was $208,196. We're going to go back to our calculator and we're going to paste that in right there. Okay. Now we're going to rinse and repeat the same search, but with a different ending date range. So it's the same dates, a 7/11 through 7/10/2025. All right. So back to the calculator, or back to the MLS rather. And it's 7/11/2024 through 7/10/2025. And just the calculator's doing all kinds of fancy math. Just follow exactly the instructions and you'll get good results every single time. So we're going to go to results, and then we're going to go to the tabular view, and we're going to look at the average close price. And the average close price was 266,514. Now, someone's going to ask in the comments, oh, can you use the median close price? You can use the median close price. There's a reason why I use average. I'm not going to get into it in this video, but you can use the median close price. Just make sure that whatever you use, median or average, you use the same for each, the starting date range search and the ending date range search. Okay. And then this is using a reverse compounding formula to calculate accurate average appreciation, annual appreciation down to 1/100%. So over the last 3 years, Fayetteville, North Carolina's experience as a, market as a whole has experienced 8.58% appreciation. Okay. You could literally do the same search if you wanted to know what was it for the last 1 year. Okay. It's just going to calculate different starting and ending date ranges, and you'll know how much the market has appreciated over the last year. Okay. There you go. So that's calculator number 2. Now let's move over to calculator number 3, which is actually an app. All right. So start from the beginning again. This is a fact-based real estate forecasting model. Move my face out of the way. Boom. All right. So fact-based real estate forecasting model that we built. It attracts buyer and seller clients with this tool, or you can attract buyer and seller clients with this tool, 15-minute forecast tool. All right. We're going to sign in with an existing account. You can also create an account from scratch. And this is what it looks like when you get in there. Okay. Now, remember, we already did a full YouTube video that was a deep dive on exactly how to use this app and get the most out of it. We'll link to that in the video description, but I just want to walk you through the basics of it. All right. So I just did this morning. Okay. We're starting with a new report. This app is really new and it's still in beta. And so here is the data that I ran this morning. Okay. So all you're doing is let me actually just back up. Okay. And let's pretend like we were going to create a new report. Okay. So when you create a new report, you can run anywhere from 1 to 100 different market segments. We recommend that you use 10 different market segments. There's a bunch of reasoning and research that goes into why we want to track 10 different market segments, but let me show you how to set those up. All right. So I automatically track for Fayetteville, Hope Mills. These are the surrounding townships around Fayetteville: Hope Mills, Spring Lake, Rayford, Southern Pines, and Sanford. Those are the markets I'm most interested in. Okay. And then I do a couple for fun. I always do an XForecast for the luxury market, which in Fayetteville, North Carolina, is basically anything over 500K with over 3,000 square feet. Right. That's kind of like our luxury market. And then I also do the investor market. So anything under 175K and under 2,000 square feet is kind of our investor market. Those are just some arbitrary criteria that I've set up. But I like to know what's the high end of the market doing and what's the low end of the market doing. And then I also do a couple of the most popular school districts. Right. So we do Terry Sanford High School and Jack Britt High School. And so those are the markets that I set up. And you can always add more market segments from month to month, right? And you just name what they are, and then I'll show you how to actually run the numbers for them later, okay? Or in the next step. So that's what it looks like to build a new market report, and it automatically saves us. Let me delete that, okay? And then here are the numbers that I actually put in. So here's what you're gonna run for each of these market segments. And this does take a little bit of time to collect the right data. And so it's a commitment. I recommend that everybody do this once a month or once a quarter. It's kind of your choice as to whether you like to be really up to date or whether once a quarter is okay. So I typically do this. I used to do it in a spreadsheet. Now we're using the XForecast app. But I typically do this, 1st of January, 1st of July, or 1st of April rather, 1st of July, and then 1st of October, just once a quarter. You can do this once a month if you really like to look at the data or if your market's changing quickly. And so here's how it works, okay? So I already ran it for today, and you can look at the data that I put in, but it calculates my absorption. I just taught you why that's important. It calculates average days on market for each one of these market segments, the list to sell discount, all right? So typically, homes are actually selling for 98.95% of their list price. It also calculates an annualized pricing trend. So it takes the amount of appreciation that's happened over the last 90 days and annualizes it so you know where the trend is headed. And then it also tells you the average discount, which is just another way of looking at the list to sell ratio. Okay. So that's that. And then as you track this data over time, it's going to build a beautiful chart that tracks all of these different data points. It plots them on a chart. Of course, I don't have enough data because this is a brand new app, right? So we're going to go back and let me show you how to grab all this data from the MLS. So all you're going to do is when I build a new report, and I'll do this in October, okay? I'm going to say Fayetteville Metro October, okay, 2025. And then I'm just going to get all the same data that I got earlier this morning, and I'm going to put it in here. And like I said, it does take a bit of time. It took me about 15 to 20 minutes total to grab all the data from the MLS. But I will tell you that when you're done with this, you are going to have the only legit market forecast that is not hand wavy and, gobbledygook. And I'll explain in just a minute why this matters. But here's what we're going to do. So we're going to go to each market segment and we're going to grab the number of active listings, the property or the number of properties that closed, that sold last quarter. Okay. So for me, that was, April all the way through June 30th. Okay. The average sale price last quarter, right? And actually, this is the average sale price for the quarter prior. So for Q1, and then the average sale price for this quarter, and then the average list price for this quarter. And so you're going to grab all that data and you're going to put it in for each one of these market segments. So I'm going to go to the MLS. Let me just show you how to do this for one market segment. Okay. And it does take a bit of time, but it's going to be worth it. Right. So we're in the MLS. We're going to run a search. We want to know properties that sold. Well, actually, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look up active properties in Fayetteville. So we're going to do this market segment, Fayetteville. Right. Number of active listings is 982. And so we just type in 982. Okay. Let me show you how you would do that for one of the other market segments. If you wanted to look up the luxury segment, then we would just go, we would put in the price. All right. We're actually going to kill that criteria. We're going to do the price, and then the square footage is going to be anything over 3,000. Right. None of this has to be exact, but it's 114. So we know that there's 114 active listings in that segment. Right. And you just rinse and repeat with all the different market segments. Just change the criteria in the MLS until you fill out that entire column. Then you're going to move over to the property closed last quarter. So the way that I would do that is I'd go to solds, and then I would do the last quarter was April 1st, 2025 through June 30th, last day of the quarter, 2025. Typo there. All right. And then I would go and run all the data for gotta undo this. Right. So I would do it for every market segment. So Fayetteville is going to be first. Right. And we want to know the tabular view. So average close price was 277, 130. Right. So I'd go back over to Fayetteville. Average sale price was this. And then I want to know the number of properties that closed is 1,005. Right? Do you guys get how that works? Okay. You're literally just going to rinse and repeat and fill out all the data for all 10 market segments. And by the way, you don't have to do 10. Obviously, the more segments that you do, the longer it's going to take. If you just wanted to do 3 or 5 segments, you can. 10, I feel, makes it really interesting. So you have a cool report at the end. that you can share on social media. But that's what I recommend. That is the XForecast. And what you're going to get at the end is, I'm going to go ahead and delete this because that's not real data. It's not October yet, right? What you're going to get at the end is you're going to get this awesome table that automatically calculates absorption, days on market, list to sell ratio, pricing trend, and average discount just from the key pieces of data that you put in. And now we can go live on social media and share this with people. And again, we do a deep dive on this and how to use this to attract clients in another YouTube video that'll be linked in the video description. Okay. And that brings us to our fourth and final calculator that you need in order to be a true market expert. And that is the Bulletproof CMA. So here's the deal. You need a new CMA method. And again, we do a deep dive on this topic in another YouTube video entitled Bulletproof CMA. We'll link it in the video description. But our Bulletproof CMA is a 50-point analysis of a property that will get you an airtight valuation. Okay. And you can do it on any property in any market. And it takes less than 15 minutes. And the calculator actually is going to run all the numbers for you and make you look like a genius. But for the first time in your life, you're not going to wonder whether you got the pricing right or not. And I recommend, if you're going to be a true market expert, I recommend that you run a Bulletproof CMA on every single property for every client, whether that client is a seller or a buyer. So I use the Bulletproof CMA before any of our buyers submit offers on any property in town. We always run a Bulletproof CMA to make sure that our offer is fair, right? Make sure that it's good enough, but also make sure that we're not getting ripped off. So I run the Bulletproof CMA on literally everything that we look at, including buyer and seller properties. All right, so here's what it looks like to create a new Bulletproof CMA. So you're just going to click create. You're going to enter an address, and let's just say that we did 323 Whitney Drive. It's 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and it's 2,100 square feet, and it's located in the Westwood subdivision or area. All right. So then you're going to click next. And here's how the Bulletproof CMA methodology works. So we use 3 different valuation methods or valuation techniques. Each one of these techniques is very accurate for pricing in its own right, but we're going to then average them together and find an airtight range of value and print out a incredible, beautiful one-page report at the end of this whole process. So first, we're going to do the adjusted baseline method, which sounds really complicated, but really all you're doing is you're finding a baseline method, and then you're calculating accurate appreciation, and then you're adding it to that. And so here's how that works. Baseline value is one of 3 things. It's always either the last time the property sold, what did it sell for? Or it's the last time that it was professionally appraised, what was it appraised for? And then if you don't have either of those and they're recent, then you could also use the most recent tax appraisal. Okay. So any one of those could be a baseline value. Well, Chris, which one should I use? I recommend that you use whichever one is most recent. So on this property, I'm just going to, for brevity, I'm just going to pull some numbers out of thin air. We're going to say that it sold for $300,000. And we're going to say that it sold 2 years ago. So you got to put the date that it sold. Let's say that it sold in 2023 on July 10th. Okay. And then we'll say that I happen to know that, appreciation for this market segment is 4.43%. I'm just going to type it in. Most people do not already know it unless you just calculated it using our other calculator. And so what you're going to do is you're going to come down here, and we've got the appreciation calculator built right into Bulletproof CMA. I highly recommend that you always use this. And so it's going to give you the starting date range. You're going to search all solds and then go to the tabular view and enter the average sale price. And then you're going to rinse and repeat the same search, ending date range, tabular view, average sale price, and then hit calculate. And it's going to calculate, let's just say it's 4.43%. And then the adjusted baseline is going to say that 2 years have elapsed at 4.43% average appreciation. And so it sold 2 years ago at $300,000. We would expect it to be worth $327,230 right now. That's the adjusted baseline. Cool, right? Really easy. Then we're going to go do more traditional valuation techniques, the active comps and the closed comps. And so with active comps, you're going to run this MLS search criteria. Okay. But the goal is that you're going to be looking for a minimum of 12 active comps. And that's the twist, right? We want a high sample size so that we have a low margin of error. And again, we teach a whole video on this. So if you're not convinced, I recommend that you watch that video. We'll link it in the video description. Okay. And so you would go to active comparables. You want to look at active listings. And let's say the average list price is 340,000. Right. I'm just making this up. And the way that I got there was when I initially ran this MLS search criteria, okay, for this subdivision, I only found one other active listing, right? That's no good. And so what I do is if the search criteria does not provide a minimum of 12 comps, and it rarely does, add comparable subdivisions to your search until you reach 12. So what I did is I just started adding comparable subdivisions. So when someone doesn't move to Westwood, where do they go? They go to Murray Hill, they go to Huntington Park, they go to they go to Van Story Hills, et cetera. And so they just go on and on and on. And I just kept adding subdivisions until I ended up with 13 comps. And when I had 13 comps, I knew that I was good. And so I went to the tabular view and I checked the average list price and it was 340,000, right? And then click next. And we're going to do the same thing for closed comps. But whatever search you ended up at on the last search, you're going to rinse and repeat. So the same subdivision, same geographical, same neighborhood, same geographical circle. And the only difference is we're looking for a lot more closed comps. So we want at least 36, preferably 37 closed comps. And I'm going to show you how to do that, right? So you're going to run this search. And the only thing that you're going to change is how many months back you're searching. Now, we're all taught that you shouldn't search back farther than 3 or 6 months, or in a very rural location, maybe 12 months, okay? The truth is all the best comps, okay, are hiding in history. And so if you want a lot of comps because we want a high a large sample size so we can have a low margin of error, we're just going to have to search farther back, okay? And we're not supposed to do that, but the reason we're not supposed to do that is because the market's always appreciating. We don't want those old comps that are unappreciated. So what if we just adjusted appreciation for them automatically and we did it down to 100th of a percent? That'd be pretty accurate. So what we would do is we do the average sale price, and number of comps. Once we, you can literally search back. Sometimes I've searched as far back as 48 months. Okay. And that will, maybe get me like as many as 70 comps. That's awesome. And the average sale price is going to look a little low because we're using all those old comps. Like some of those comps are 4 years old. And so let's just say that it was, 280,000 or something like that. Okay. Here's what's going to happen. Once we calculate the average appreciation over 48 months, which we can do using the same internal appreciation calculator, right? Just search the starting date range, enter the average sale price for that date range, and then rinse and repeat for the new date range and enter the ending sale price. It's going to calculate average appreciation. Let's just say that it was, 5.2% over 48 months. And then you hit calculate. Oops. Let's just say that it was 5.2%. Then we're going to click next, and it's going to automatically adjust all of those older comps by adding appreciation accurate down to 100% automatically, right? And so it's going to give you this reasonable range of value, and then we're going to save and get the report. And bada boom, bada bing. This is your beautiful one-page presentation that you can print out. Actually, we need to edit this because no reason to put the city, the rest of the address, etc. This report's supposed to just say 323 Whitney Drive. It'll look a lot better. But anyway, this is the report you get. You can edit it over here, or you can print it out. You can download it. You can send somebody a link to it. And you can also edit the suggested list price depending on what you or your seller's goals are. But that's the Bulletproof CMA. And we should be doing this for all of our buyer and seller clients all the time. And the reason why is you're getting much more accurate results than using the method that they taught us in real estate school. So those are the 4 calculators. And in the next lesson, I'm going to teach you how to apply the numbers that you figured out from these calculators. I'm going to teach you how to apply them to real world scenarios, buyer and seller scenarios that will actually get you more clients and make you more money. All right, now that you know your numbers cold, I want to show you how to apply them in the real world. And that brings us to lesson number 3, becoming a true market authority. And becoming a true market authority is knowing your numbers, having the calculators so you can get the numbers, and then knowing how to apply them in the real world. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through just a couple of real life scenarios, one for each one of these calculators, and you'll get to see what a flex it is to know your numbers rather than just guessing, which is what most agents do. So in order to teach through this lesson, I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to take you through each one of these calculators. So calculator number one, the days on market absorption rate calculator. This comes up all the time in listing situations, right? So in listing situations, you're going to have to take a listing when you get an exclusive listing agreement for a specified length of time, right? And if you don't know your true days on market, okay, in this case, and you're like most agents, you say, "Oh, Mr. Seller, I'll get the house sold for you in a couple of weeks, or I'll get the house sold for you in 30 days." Okay, but you didn't know true days on market. Not only would you be setting up the seller for disappointment, but you're also likely to take a shorter length of contract, and the property is probably going to expire. So if you've done the work and you know what true days on market is using the absorption rate method, and you've done it once a month. So, let's say the last time that you ran this was just a few days ago, and you know that true days on market right now is 91. You go into a listing appointment and you're going to say, "Mr. Seller, I know you've probably met with some other agents. I don't know what they've told you about days on market right now. The market's still good. There's still a lot of demand. We'll get your property sold. But I do want to tell you that true average days on market right now using our absorption rate calculator is 91. And what that means, Mr. Seller, is that half of homes are going to sell faster than that. It's good news. But it also means that half of homes are going to sell slower than that. They're going to sell longer than 91 average days on market. Now, good news is we have some marketing techniques, and I go into our whole thing. I think we can get this days on market down. I don't think that we're not an average agent. Only an average agent is going to have average days on market. And so then we walk them through that whole process. But that is it shouldn't be, but it's a huge flex in this industry to be able to tell down to, accurate days on market down to the day at 91, and to be able to have the calculator to back it up so you can show them how you arrived at that number. Okay. Now let's talk about appreciation. Okay. Have you ever been in a social setting, maybe at a party or like a backyard barbecue, and somebody knows that you're in real estate? Maybe they have a mild interest in real estate themselves, and so they're just making conversation, and they say, hey, Chris, how's the market? Right? How's the market? And you know what most agents say when you say how's the market? They remind me of what's his name? Owen Wilson from Wedding Crashers. And Owen Wilson, he had no idea what he was talking about. He said, "I'd say my portfolio is strong to quite strong." I don't know if you guys remember that scene, but that's what most agents sound like. They say, "Oh, the market's strong. Oh, the market's great." Okay. And it's just hand wavy gobbledygook. It doesn't mean anything. Okay. But if you know accurate appreciation for, like let's say the last year, okay, and you also know days on market and you know total inventory, then what if your answer looked like this? Okay. What if they said, "Hey, how's the market?" I say, "Well, I don't know. It depends on what you mean. I can tell you specifically the inventory is up." We know that because we ran an XForecast. Okay. Inventory's up, which means that homes are, sitting on the market for longer. Okay. Average days on market right now is 91, which that's not great. It takes about 91 days. It takes about 3 months just to get a home sold. But the good news is that average appreciation, which I calculated just a few days ago, is over 8.5%. So home prices are still going up, which means that demand is still very strong. And so it's a great time to sell. And obviously every time is a great time to buy, because if you don't buy today, then a year from now, prices are going to go up another, 8 to 9%. So that's a real answer, and it's specific. Okay. And so you're going to make it plainly obvious to everybody within earshot that you know your stuff and you know what you're talking about. Okay. Now let's talk about the XForecast. Okay. This is the same type of scenario. Okay. Because you ran the forecast, okay, for all of these different market segments, you can tell anybody in any situation exactly what's happened in the market. But what I would recommend is, once you've built this report, let's say you do it once a quarter, what we always do is we go live on Facebook and we tell people, the script would go something like this. We actually have a script. We'll let you download it. It'll be in the video description. But we do a script where we go live and we say, "Hey, for anybody that might be interested in buying or selling a home anytime in the next 12 to 24 months, I do these quarterly reports where I just show you what's happening in the real estate market in Fayetteville. And generally, I'll build into the script something like, you probably hear all kinds of vague, hand wavy notions about, the market's bad, the market's good. Let me just show you what's actually happening in the market by the numbers. And then I just walk them through each one of these, each one of these key data points and tell them what's happening in each one of these market segments. And then I say, by the way, if there's a market segment that you're interested in that you don't see here, that's not represented here, just post it in the comments and I'll run the same market report for your segment. And I'm very, very happy to do it. Right. And then obviously, if you're interested in selling anytime in the next 12 months, the first step that you're going to want to take is you're going to want to go get a Bulletproof CMA. And Bulletproof CMA is just a very powerful analysis that we do on your home. It's every bit as accurate as a professional appraisal. Only difference is appraisals cost $1,000, and we'll do this for free. And we're happy to do it for free. All you have to do is leave a comment below, or there's actually a link in the comments that'll link you directly to a CMA request form, and we'll do the Bulletproof CMA for you. And that's just the next step for anybody that's interested in selling. And it doesn't obligate that you list with us or anything like that. That's just what we do because we're passionate about helping people buy and sell and understand the market here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Okay, that's the script. It's really easy. We go live on on Facebook, and we share that. And you do that once a quarter. Sometimes you get a load of comments. Sometimes you get no comments. But what you're doing is you're quietly, okay, but firmly letting everybody know on your friends list on Facebook that you know your stuff. And because you know your stuff, you know that when it's time for them to make a move, that they're going to trust you with their business. And so those are some real life scenarios, buyer and seller scenarios that you can apply some of these numbers. So you could probably think of dozens more, but those are just enough to get you started and hopefully get you excited about really becoming a true market authority and knowing your numbers cold. Congratulations, you made it. If you have those 4 calculators, and more importantly, you use them, you are now a local market expert. No one can take that away from you. And now that you know your numbers cold, start looking for ways to apply the numbers in conversation. When somebody asks, how's the market? Well, inventory is up and it's taking about 3 months to sell a property. But the good news is prices are still rising. We're up 7% over last year. Boom. That's an authoritative answer. Remember, I also do a full 1-hour training on the Bulletproof CMA process. If you want to become an expert in that method, I'll give you the training free. All you have to do is like this video, share with a friend, and then comment shared below, and I'll send you a private link to the training. And don't forget to subscribe because we're putting out 2 videos per week. Look, we've doubled our real estate business 3 times since 2019. If you want the full breakdown, exact scripts, step-by-step processes, and our brand new tool, drop a comment below.
No gimmicks, no paywalls. We're sending it completely free because we know it works.
Just type send it in the comments and we'll get it to you ASAP.
And if this was helpful, stick with us. We're dropping more strategies twice a week. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next.